business is to allow Miss Daly to participate via phone conference. Is there a motion? Member Rosenbaum, second by Member Williams. Please cast your vote. Motion carried. Welcome, Linda. Okay, so that will get us to approval of the October 28th minutes. We'll take both together, the executive session and the regular. Member Rosenbaum, Member Phelan. Any questions, comments, corrections? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Aye.
Motion carried, all ayes. So we're going to go a little out of order and try to make sure we get the votes up first. So resolution strategic plan update. Is there a motion for that? Member Williams, second by Member Phelan. Melissa, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today. What you have in front of you is the 2026 strategic plan. I just started saying 2025, so here we are on the eve of 2026. And this was in front of you a couple months ago, and we've pivoted based on the direction we received at that meeting. If you remember, you all retreated in March of this year and did want some focus on metrics, but in the discussion in September, I believe, it was obvious from the original strategic plans write-up that there was some confusion over the board's goals and action items. So those goals in the original document were called strategic goals or priority areas. And so our focus in the repackaging of the strategic plan is to present to you a two-part document. And this is part one, which we're calling the 2026 strategic plan. And this is really supposed to stand the test of time year over year. You will update this at some point. I don't know when that will be, but it's one of those things that you feel more so than you know exactly, oh, in 2030 or 2032, we'll update it. And this is really meant to emphasize Peoria County's board's strategic goals. There's 5 of them: financial stability, infrastructure maintenance and improvements, community investment, communication and marketing, workforce and organizational development, and lastly, regional and intergovernmental collaboration. And then also the foundational elements, our vision, mission statement, values, core behaviors, and strategic lenses. So this is actually all material that you've really seen before, with the exception of some metrics mentioned on every goal page. And then the idea is that we come back to you next month with the action plan. And those are the things that staff work on day over day to deliver to the board to help implement the strategic plan. So an example of an action that you had in your previous strategic plan was the prioritization of ARPA funds. And that's something that's completed. So great work on that. So 2026 action plan will have actions that we are helping the board to achieve. And that's something that gets updated on a yearly basis. So maybe every year at your board retreat, you're discussing what action items you want to tackle within the next 12 months, or some action items will be on a 2026 and a 2027 action plan because they take more than 12 months to implement. So what's in front of you now is the 2026 strategic plan. And what that contains is a lot of what you had in your original strategic plan, but it's meant to be bold in design and emphasize the goals. So anyone that is new to the board or anyone in the public really understands the direction that Peoria County is headed. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Member Williams?
I just have a comment. On financial stability, I feel like we also need to have part of that be internal. Various departments to be part of this process because they help us be financially stable.
Thank you, Member Williams. Member Blair?
Are we going to be able to, looking at these metrics, are we going to have like an online dashboard where we can actually see these metrics as they change over the years?
Yes, I thank you for that question. That is the ultimate goal. No changes have been made yet to the current strategic plan website. Like I mentioned, these goals stay the same, but we hope we will take any adopted actions and put them online and track our progress.
Further questions? Seeing none, Melissa, I know you put a lot of time and effort to get a clean document to us, so I appreciate it, and I like the format here and the presentation, so I think that is very well done, so appreciate your hard work on that.
Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, please vote.
I,
Motion carried, all ayes. Next, I will get to some informational items. So Springdale Long-Term American Rescue in Peoria County, I'll move to receive and file unless there's questions in regards to that. Seeing none, Planning and Zoning Director Braun is here for a Climate and Equitable Jobs Act update.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So effectively in 2021, the state of Illinois passed the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, which closed power plants throughout the state. The Ameren Edwards facility was closed in September 22. That allowed us to then apply for energy transition grant funding. This will be the third year that we've received that funding. We will be guaranteed that funding for 5 years following the closure. There's a potential that we'll receive it a sixth year. We did apply for funding and we received $230,270. Condition of this funding is to solicit project proposals from the community and have a public meeting. So placing this informational item on the executive committee agenda satisfies the conditions of the grant. At this point, the projects that we are proposing to take forward under the FY25 grant are $20,000 for the DCEO Community Development Assistance Program Housing Rehabilitation Grant. We plan to utilize that as a match for the funds. If we're successful in that grant, it does get us additional points. Effectively, that helps in a competitive grant setting. So that would be administered and maintained by the Department of Planning and Zoning. We have a proposal for $50,000 to Distillery Labs for accelerated business engagement and operational endeavors. What this money can be used for is special events, office space renovations. Think about it as more or less a sponsorship to Distillery Labs. Historically, the county has funded them. Some of that funding mechanism has started to expire because they're approaching their fourth year in operation. We have $25,000 to the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council for accelerated business engagement and a business manager. What we're doing is we are funding half of a position with GPEDC, who the county has historically utilized for our economic development. We have $25,000 to Discover Peoria for the Peoria Area Convention and Visitors Bureau brand support. That's going to help them with some promotional materials. We have $87,000 for the Regional for Development and Business Attraction Revolving Loan Fund from the Downtown Development Corporation of Peoria. What this group intends to do is take maybe less desired office space in the downtown central business district and help to reclassify it into a higher class. When you think of office space, it is actually classified as a Class A, a Class B, a Class C. There are tenants that are looking for higher visibility, cleaner spaces, remodels, HVAC systems that are more modern. And so this group will help fund some of those improvements. We've got a lot of building stock in downtown. Unfortunately, a lot of the building stock is not ready for the tenants that are looking for that space. We did receive some other proposals. I'm happy to discuss those if requested, and I'm certainly happy to provide an update on what we've historically done in the 2024 grant cycle and the 2023 grant cycle. Brittany Eason, over my left shoulder, is our senior planner in Department of Planning and Zoning, and she will be the grant manager for this project. So, Rebecca?
Questions for Mr. Braun? Thank you, Andrew. And I think the proposal from Greater Peoria Leadership Council to try to, it's kind of the conversations about improving Main Street and getting people back into the urban setting is a great first step for that to start. So I'm happy to be part of that. So appreciate you bringing that forward. Any other questions? Thank you. Do you want to introduce Brittany while you're here?
So earlier this year, to backtrack, when I was appointed as director, I had never backfilled my assistant director position. So earlier this year, we hired Brittany Eason as our senior planner. She has an extensive background in compliance and grant management. So she's been working behind the scenes for the last 7 months or so, helping us secure grants like this, worked on an ADA transition plan that you'll see in a few months here, but more the special projects that filter through Department of Planning and Zoning. So great team member. We're really happy to have her on board.
Thank you. You made it through probation.
I did.
It's an inside joke, I guess. All right, seeing none, we'll move to the funding jail master plan implementation. Going up here.
Okay, so today we have some discussion on the jail funding options going forward. And I want to point out Shelby Willenti. Sorry, embarrass her a little bit. She's our budget and finance analyst. And when we were asked to bring a presentation and conversation to this committee meeting, we thought it would be great to have an interactive tool to utilize so that we can have a robust discussion. And so I gave Shelby that challenge, and she really has something really useful for us today. So I just appreciate her work. She's going to be driving the tool while we're talking. So I'll explain that a little more as we get into it. But as you all know, in June, you met at the Peoria County Jail, had a great discussion on the results of the jail master plan and kind of some paths forward for us. I want to start the conversation with what you see on the screen, and that is jail maintenance expenses that have been paid since 2011. So it's 15 years worth of data. I think it's through September of 2025. Shelby also pulled this together for us. So on the left-hand side of your screen are a summary by fiscal year and by the payment, the funding source. So the light green is the Capital Projects Fund, which over the past 15 years has contributed $6.8 million to these repairs and improvements. The ARPA fund, $941,000, which is essentially the roof on the 1999 section. And then the general fund, $1.1 million over that time frame, of which 500,000 of that came out of the sheriff's budget and the other 600,000 out of facilities budget. On the right-hand side of your screen are the different basically categories that were repaired or replaced. The largest being the roof at roofing costs, and then followed by mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, the ring road, and then exterior grounds and the fire system. The jail cell conversion that we've been doing over the past 2 years was about 7% of those expenses, and we're just around $200,000 for that project. So this is kind of the starting point, just to show what has been done over the last 15 years, just under $9 million in repairs and maintenance. So just kind of use that as our starting point. Shelby, will you switch to the pay-as-you-go tool, please? So from the meeting in June, it was the direction that we received was to kind of build out a pay-as-you-go model. We started looking at different funding source options for it in June, and then Member Ricker asked us for this to look at the first phase, which I believe we've landed on as the kitchen and laundry to be the first major project. We don't have solid numbers on that unless there's some news that has come in recently. But we're looking at a target of around $7 to $10 million in that initial phase. And from my understanding, the work would not begin until fiscal year 2027. So we have money in the budget this year for engineering and design and whatever other needs for that 3.5 million could cover. And then we're kind of looking out for the next 3 years for that first major project. So in this tool, we have 6 different kind of buckets of funding sources, and I'll explain those real quick before we get started. The general fund reserves, obviously, that's where we have a bulk of our funding. I think we're at 40-some% reserve balance right now. So we have different options that we can utilize. The second one is the general fund surplus from fiscal 24 that the board had not designated. The amount was just over $1.7 million that we could utilize. The general fund in fiscal 26, we have the new vacancy method. A lot of the funding historically from the general fund that you saw on the previous slide came from vacancies. So these are just suggestions. They're different options that we can look at. Nothing is hard and fast. So, but we anticipate there may be $1 million left in vacancies that may be available in fiscal 26. Then we have the Capital Projects Fund, which is funded by the Public Facilities Sales Tax every year. We usually have about $4.5 million available per year for capital projects. We kind of capped this at $3.25 million just to start with, because whatever funding is utilized from this funding source will have to delay other projects that we have on the list for different sources, facilities. And then the County State Capital Improvement Fund is the next one. You'll know that as the Keystone Fund. This would be a loan from that fund. We feel comfortable recommending, is that one on there, Shelby? I don't- Okay, that's fine. I believe around 2 to 2.5 million, maybe up to 3 million available as a loan, but obviously that would have to be repaid. And then the ARPA interest. So we've obligated all of the ARPA back in December of last year. We'll have about $2.5 million in interest available through fiscal 29 in ARPA funds. So if you add all those together, it's a decent amount, but you have to remember whatever we use here, we are not using on other things. So we want to, if you want to go to the balancing for the future chart next. Yeah, perfect. So this is the chart that we have in our budget book year over year. This is what it's currently projected out as. And so we included this so that we can do different, as we do these different scenarios, we can, Shelby, will you click on the scenario 1, please, just as an option? You can see how it would adjust the date out into the future here. So before we were going to go below fund balance out at 2035. If we do the option that was just selected, it'll be mid 2033 that we go below with our current revenues and expenditures. So, and then lastly, we included a list of the capital projects that are in our capital planning software right now from 27, 28, 29, and 30. Those would be the ones that are kind of on schedule but not approved. So 2026 was approved by the board. 27 and through 2030 are ones that departments and the leadership believe would need to be addressed in the next few years. So we can go back to pay as you go. So this is just one scenario that we had come up with using the surplus of the general fund from fiscal 24, 1.7 million, general fund vacancies of $1 million, capital projects fund 3.75, and then the interest from ARPA 2.5 gets us to $9 million. That's one scenario. So I would like to make sure everybody understands kind of what this process is first, and then if you committee members want to come up with some different scenarios, we can populate those on the fly and show you kind of what impact there is.
Thank you, Heather. Questions? Member Williams.
So for the 2026 budget for our capital projects, we have about $30 million that we're doing in projects, and that includes the $3.5 million for the jail engineering and architectural, correct?
Can you put the capital projects back up, please? It's 12.8 million for fiscal 26, but yes, 3.5 of that is for the jail.
Okay, so those are the projects that we have scheduled for 2026?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Questions for Heather? Sheriff, you got anything you want to add to it? So couple with it. This is a start from what we've discussed here. The narrative that the jail is falling apart or structurally not sound or needs to be demolished tomorrow is a false one. This is going to take time, and I think everybody understands that. This is going to take some tightening of the belts in certain places, not neglecting other facilities, and maybe some creative thinking, always open for ideas. But we've identified the past, we have a plan, we know what needs to be addressed right off the bat. And the first implementation of that is the $3.5 million for a design team. So I know that this includes some funding for the public facilities tax, which we're also going to have to someday figure that out. That does not have a whole lot of time left on it. That only has about 2 years, I believe, left on it before that sales tax funding that we use in here. So structurally, as the pay as you go, we're going to have to some things that we're going to need to be figured out here to move that model. So with that, the other thing is for staff, just so we know timelines. So timeline is just lay out the timelines for when we think we're going to have the RFQ out for the design team to come on staff, the bid process for when we have. So the electrical that we're going to do to run to the kitchen for the new kitchen equipment, not to say it buys us time, but it does make some significant upgrades towards that area while we're in design stage for that before we go out to bid. So the numbers that we're tentatively looking at are from the WS or from the study that we had for the 30, the 60, the 100, the 200 million. We do not actually know what a kitchen's going to cost yet. The best guess we have is actually, and a good thing we've done is hired PJ Hare that will be part of this team to price costs and show that what we have in the budget. And their design estimates are probably the most accurate for something like that now. So with that, Scott, do you just want to run through the timelines of where we sit?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think the timeline for having architectural engineering services that the board appropriated in 26, it'd be my goal to have us bring a recommendation for award, probably mid-late first quarter. So that's February committees for March board might be aggressive, but we'll try to hit, March committees, April board is probably more realistic. But we've already started to kind of pencil out what a scope of services might look like. So, let's assume that timeline plays out. We need to get a contract actually executed once you award it. So figure, within 30 days of your vote to award it, that we actually have a contract negotiated, executed, and we're starting work on the design elements that will be necessary. We'll do those in a sequential order, even though the contract for the architectural engineering services will cover all four of the priorities that you've talked to us about and that we've talked about at length. And the current priority order for those four things are replacing the kitchen, converting the existing kitchen to a new laundry, the mechanical systems in the central plant, and then determining how many and where will convert beds within a housing unit or housing units plural to be determined into beds that would be dedicated for substance abuse recovery, mental and behavioral health diagnoses for those detainees that have either one or both of those conditions. And then the goal would be to recommend to you and have money appropriated for FY27 to then start construction on the kitchen and the laundry in 27. And then we'd then continue working to identify, the next round of pay-as-you-go funding. And once we have enough funds available to do the central plant and the mechanical systems, and then the substance abuse, mental behavioral, and the health housing units, then we would, look to go to construction on those. Are we going to be able to, tackle all those in close succession? Too early to tell. But I think we feel pretty confident that we can identify funding sources that can get us the kitchen and the laundry to be able to go to construction in 27. We feel highly confident about that. And the tool that Shelby developed and with input from Heather and I, this really allows this body here to tell us on the fly which buckets of money you do want to use, which buckets of money you don't want to use, and those that you do want to use, what levels, and then what are some impacts of those decision points. So, if you want to use more general fund reserves than capital project fund dollars, we can show you what the impact that'll have on the reserves of the general fund long time by the budgeting for the future chart. If you want to use more capital project dollars, we can show you, okay, these are the projects that are in the queue that we're planning to do that we're no longer going to be able to do, or that we'll have to delay those. So I feel like we're in a pretty good place at the moment where we can have hopefully a good policy discussion with you about how to pay for the kitchen and the laundry, and then while pursuing a parallel path to get the architectural and engineering services RFQ out on the street.
Questions? Member Renault? Member Allison?
I just wondered if this was a tool that we would have access to.
That might. We could probably send that out and with some instructions on how to, if there's a lot of formulas in it. So,
Or if not, could you send out instructions for us to send you requests to pull up?
I mean, if we built it to have discussion today too. So if you guys have ideas or if you want us to bring it back to another committee or anything in between, we can do that too. We kind of wanted to give you some ideas as to what if you had an idea as to where different funding sources that are options, we can plug those numbers in as we're here and change them also and see where they're at. But I know it's fresh information, so you might have to think on it a little bit. But
the way that I think this is going to work, and in talking with Chairman Salzer and Vice Chairman Kelch from Infrastructure, projects themselves will run through the actual Infrastructure Committee. The discussion of how we're going to fund and understanding the costs of the jail, of where we're going to need to proceed, that's actually going to run through exec, where we have the majority of board members. So when projects go to bid, that will not be part of it exec. But understanding where we're at financially and how to pay that is going to be the broader discussion of the fuller or the executive committee, if that helps. So if you do have suggestions or things, I feel confident when we've brought on Kyle and Melissa, and as long as the sheriff continues to run the relationship that we have with Sheriff Watkins, this is going to be very similar to your house. Right now, consider the kitchen like you wanted to remodel your kitchen at your house. But we talk about redoing the mechanicals and the cells and everything. We will have to maybe potentially be nimble in this scenario where just in this, you're saving for the kitchen, but all of a sudden you might have a water leak in your shower upstairs and you have to pivot, and we might need to go fix a tire cell block to get operational as the ebbs and flows of the jail. And that's why I feel confident of the relationship that we have with the electeds here to keep us to have that conversation. And we've brought staff in to help manage that, Heather to manage financial parts of it, Scott in his past building. So this is going to be a living document basically for the next 10 years, probably. Remember Renault?
When we were looking at the capital projects tab, I noticed just like in 2027, there were right off the top, there were $5 million worth of courtroom renovations. So are those numbers reflective of the capital projects funding the entire project, or are there reserves built into any of those?
that would be the estimates from the departments and any input from Kyle and Melissa. And it would all of these I'm looking at are all funded from the capital projects fund.
100%.
At the moment. Mhm.
Okay.
Obviously, the jail master plan line item is in there kind of as a placeholder for the amount, but
Thank you. Member Renault. Member Williams.
Obviously, we're pursuing grants.
Where we can, but as Member Rickers asked me one-on-one, and I've shared with him, there aren't very many grants that go towards building county jails. There might be opportunities on the substance abuse and mental and behavioral health side. I've talked to the state's attorney about the opioid funds that she has available. That is a possible source, but it's not, the silver bullet that's going to solve all of our problems.
Other comments? Member Blair.
Looking there at like years 29 and 30, there's not a lot, but the assumption is that probably something's going to break down, and those columns are going to get bigger.
correct. And more projects will come into the pipeline. Yeah. Not everyone is accustomed to longer term capital planning here either. We're working on that. So yes, there will definitely be other projects that come.
Other comments? Just to highlight, I know, if you look in 2028, roughly the 12 million is the estimate of, we put 400,000 to try to stabilize the fleet garage, but the fleet garage and highway is another huge component that we have outstanding necessarily to take. But if you look at what we've done around here at the other facilities, basically this courthouse is generationally changed to lead to the next generation with the improvements that are made. Health campus, as long as we maintain that, is a top-notch building. The improvements that we have at PCAPS, that building should be good for a while as long as we do proper maintenance. So and even the things at the jail with the ring road complete, the outside with the roof, the ATUs and the tuck pointing, the exterior of the jail will be in great shape. So it is not all doom and gloom, even though we need to have money. We have made some significant improvements to our facilities. Other questions? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome. And we'll get that out to you guys shortly.
So standing committees, since member Salzer cannot be here today, and I don't think he would be opposed to staying, but please keep member Salzer and his family in your prayers for he lost his brother over the weekend. So infrastructure, I'll go through it. Basically, cash rent of the county on farmland. We're going to receive a little over, it's over $300. It's more than what we've received in the last few years. We do have an out clause if the business park or any of that development would move forward. Akron Road Box Culvert Joint Funding Agreement is basically a new culvert. Motor fuel tax appropriations for Mossville Road resurfacing. That will be a mill and overlay that will move forward on that. Approval of quotations received for the 2026 general maintenance request for quotations is basically rock, oil, anything you possibly imagine, government pricing that would be set for that. An agreement on Galena Road gravel to permit the installation of a culvert under Truett Road. Many of you might know that old sand pit in Chillicothe that member Rulin has talked about in the past. This is accessing something under the road. Their liability would be there. And member Rulin mentioned to make sure that the neighbors' considerations have been taken care of into that. And then lastly, an agreement with Beck Oil Company of Illinois to make improvements to County Highway to access the proposed gas station and truck stop. That is a contractual agreement that would be between us and Beck's. If you recall, we budgeted some money for us to make partial of the first improvements. After that, it is on the corporation to make that, which is a different relationship, because if the number does go higher than what is estimated, the owner of that corporation does have the right of refusal for that road for us not to proceed. So there's a lot of moving parts on that, but that's thanks for staff for getting that first agreement done. So that is quite a bit on infrastructure, but if there's any questions, staff or I would be happy to answer those. Seeing none, that leads us to Ways and Means, which is Matt's not here and Betty is headed to Texas. So they basically had monthly delinquent taxes, land use. Member Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just had a text amendment. We had it before where if somebody was getting the house permit and didn't get it done in time, they'd get an extension. Then on the third time, they would have to go back to the Board of Appeals, and the court struck that down. So now we had to change our wording in our bylaws and so forth. So that's what that was about.
Thank you, Member Rosenbaum. Questions for Member Rosenbaum? Seeing none, Member Coates, Operations.
Yes, we had 3 resolutions. 2 of them were IT related. The migration of the county clerk's recorder of deeds software to a cloud solution for enhanced cybersecurity and disaster recovery. And then also the approval to procure the cloud gavel electronic warrant system. And those were both pushed through. And then also the final one was approval of the 2026 risk management excess insurance as well. Those are all secured.
Thank you, Member Coates. Questions for Member Coates? Seeing none. Health, Member Renault.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did not have any resolutions. We just had lots of informational items.
Thank you, Member Renault. Next, Public Safety, Member Allison.
We had 4 resolutions. 3 of them were PCAPS related. One being a $2,500 donation that is going to be used for medical supplies from some previous volunteers who have since moved out of the area. We also had the bequest of Dr. Inlandfeld in the amount of $25,000. So that's a great amount. And I'm sorry, thank you, $250,000. It was right in my head. $250,000, and they're going to use that for capital improvements. So set that aside. Also, the Humane Society had a donation that's going to be used to improve flea and tick treatment. Our last one was the Illinois Arts Council grant related to a mural at the JDC. It's going to be an interactive project with their youth.
Beautiful. Questions for Member Allison? Thank you. Then that would be Finance, Member Williams.
We had one resolution, which was the budget appropriation for health insurance for FY 2025. That's just to cover changes in who's being covered over various departments, and that was unanimously approved.
Thank you, Member Williams. Public comments? Seeing none, that will give us to miscellaneous. I'll start on Member Rosenbaum's side. Member Williams?
Hello, Andrew. Can you give us an update on the comprehensive land use plan? I just want to make sure all members hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Planning and Zoning has been working with Tri-County Regional Planning Commission and our consultant Planning Next for the update to the 2009 Comprehensive Land Use Plan. We've appointed a planning commission. We've had a series of meetings, and we've been conducting public outreach. So currently on the Peoria County 200plus plus.com website is a survey. We've passed out a number of different postcards that have a QR code that you could scan to go directly to that survey, or you can go to the website. We're looking for input from anybody and everybody on land use. We're looking for positive areas of the county. We're looking for areas that folks feel could use some improvement. We're looking for goals and actions as it relates to land use. We've done a number of different activities in the public setting. We started with the bicentennial. We had a booth set up there. This Saturday we'll be at Christmas in the Park at Alpha Park in Martinville. We'll have a booth set up there trying to interact with the public. And then we have a series of what's called Future Talks, where staff is going to be with special interest groups or citizen advocate groups, planning commissions, whatever group essentially is interested. We'll have an interactive map type setting, ask some questions, and dive into like an hour-long conversation, all to gather input, to put together some sort of plan, to then bring back to the public for additional public input. So we're really looking for opportunities to get out into the public in all areas of the county, in all demographics, whether it be, schools, whether it be senior centers. We want to hear from everybody about anything.
I just want to add, I appreciate all the work Andrew's doing on this. And please, if you're interested, get on the website and fill out the survey.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Member Alice?
It was mentioned Christmas in the park. This is this coming Saturday at Alpha Park, and I'd like to encourage everyone, if you've got time, to stop by. It's the closest thing to a Hallmark movie we've got around here. So it's pretty amazing to see. Also to Heather and team, if sending out that interactive tool is too complicated, maybe there's a better way for us to send some ideas and get it computed. I wasn't trying to create more work for you, but I think it would be fun for us to play with different numbers and see what that looks like. Thank you.
Administrator?
Nothing other than happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. So I got a few things I want to just administratively run through. So hopefully in December we'll have some more broadband updates, the Comcast and everything's. Hopefully we'll have some clarity on that, where that's at. So we haven't lost sight of that. The money's still sitting there, that's potentially some funding if that doesn't all get used, that we can have some flexibility the way it's set up. So that money's there. It's about that time of year again. So Member Coates, Member Rulin, and Member Blair had done in the past the evaluation. I've talked to Scott about timeframes. I think that's something we want to clarify more, is the timeframes for evaluations, and stick to timeframes and not get into March like we've tended to get with that. Appreciating the members that have done that. But if there are members that would like to volunteer for that, or add any expertise to that, please let any of those 3 members know. I know sometimes when we ask you to do things, it feels like lifetime appointments, and they're not meant to be lifetime appointments. So please express if you'd like to learn that process. And I appreciate Member Blair for doing the data work, Coates and Rulin, and everybody for gathering all the data and getting it there. Just to talk about it, I know we haven't talked about it too much, but hopefully you've gotten compliments too. So multiple calls from staff. It was in the budget too, and we can explain the process. Scott would happy to be explained how that happened, but we've had electeds, we've had employees plead to us for the free parking at the parking deck, and that parking is available to our employees, no longer will be deducted from their checks. We've done in the past awards. You could get free month of December, and how that works. So we're still working through the logistics. That's like $70,000 that was in that fund. Just to be blunt, to tell you how it works, that parking deck is fully operational right now with overflow of parking, not even just from us. So it allows us to be more flexible, to have some employees in that. There's been multiple thank yous. That's a big deal for a lot of our employees. Now, not everybody utilizes that, so there is logistics involved in that, but that is things that our staff are working out. So just wanted to bring that up. Thanks to everybody that made that possible. That has been a huge thing that's been on. We spent time at strategic planning. People have been talking about how to get there for a long time. So wanted to make sure that was there. And if you haven't, I know me and Member Ruland and Member McCann took a tour yesterday. Probation office, if you haven't seen it, it's worth going up just to take a quick tour with Mr. Brown for the usability of what that was to what it is for probation. And if you haven't, I'm sure Clerk Spears would be happy to have you down in his office and see the transformation that's taking on down there. So phase one is complete. We're into phase two, which will then move the other offices around. But phase one is a really great layout and a workable space for his employees. So if you hadn't, I'm sure Mr. Spears would love a visit. So those are all the things, and I'm working with. Hopefully, we're going to get talk to the sheriff about getting everybody some reports that currently go out that maybe every member will be available to see here at some point. So, with that, happy Thanksgiving. Do you have anything you'd like to add? All right, I know we got through a lot. 3:45. That's a good day. So, meeting adjourned.